Welcome to Native Calgarian and Mossy for listening. I'm your host, Michelle Robinson, speaking to you in Mohkinstsis in the Blackfoot Confederacy, home of the Niitsitapi, Tsuut'ina Dene, and the Yiharhi Nakota. I talk about history, current news, unheard news, book clubs, with special guests to give local or national issues a voice through an urban Satu Dene lens. My life's work will be to honor the voices of my ancestors and next generation with humor, love, and truth. Reconciliation is work, not performance. May we honor all Indigenous voices with that courage. Today is May 9th, 2025. Welcome to Native Calgarian. If you enjoy hearing Indigenous content by this Satu Dene woman, my Patreon account is Native Calgarian, where you can pledge and support. Thank you, previous donors, for showing your support. To those who cannot afford to give, I'd love to hear from you at nativeyyc@gmail.com, where you can send in your comments or questions. Also, giving a review helps, whatever medium you're listening from. I have a YouTube channel where you can go and subscribe. Go to nativecalgarian.com for the latest podcasts and pin posts on social media. And always remember to share the things you learned to your network. Not seeing enough of that, folks. Oki, Naganago, Mekoche Chistakomaki, or Nara Dago Dekots Nagotene Siku Saradi. My name is Red Thunder Woman. My married English name is Michelle Robinson, and I use they, them pronouns. I'm Dene. Lineage roots me all the way to the Great Bear Lake tribe in Treaty 11 in Delaney. I'm a native to Turtle Island, and my Dene nation is uninvited to this area of Clinchotene Indahe and Satu Dene, meaning many big dog town, named after the Calgary Stampede. I was born in Blackfoot, or in, I was born in Blackfoot. I am born in Blackfoot. What a great way to mess that up. So I was born in Calgary, or in Blackfoot, Mohkinstsis, as Michelle Elliott, an English name which has afforded me privilege in an English colonial world. Acknowledging proximity to whiteness is important because the darker the skin, the more racism a person experiences in colonial spaces. My late great-grandfather is Milo Bewolf from Delaney. His daughter, Alice, is my now late granny. My mother and I are Northern Slavey Dene, or Satu Dene, but my Indian Act Imposed status card by the Canadian government says Yellowknives Dene First Nation. Through my father, I'm a daughter of the Mayflower and a daughter of the American Revolution. Having a Canadian Indian Act Imposed status card is a colonial construct by Canadian policies meant to divide Indigenous peoples' inherent rights. Indigenous Two-Spirit, or the Indigenous 2S LGBTQ community, and Indigenous women are at the bottom of the Canadian socio-economic ladder because of imposed poverty, colonial trauma, racism, gendered violence, and land theft. I am not a social worker nor an elder, nor do I speak on behalf of all Indigenous peoples, but I share my journey as a Dene mom navigating this ableist, colonial, misogynistic, racist world in 2025. I think of all of this today, and I hope we honor the many Indigenous lives lost for this so-called country named Canada. I hope you see your role in the importance of stopping harm, and as a citizen, see your role in reconciliation and as a treaty partner. Land Back is a movement that could save the planet from this climate change created by colonialism. But it would be part of sharing, which I don't think colonizers understand. They clearly don't understand treaty partnership, meaningful reconciliation, and honoring global initiatives like the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. As a former geomatics drafter, happy to teach you more, but you'll have to pay me. Go to nativecalgarian.com for more if you're interested in learning about that. So it's Friday. We had Red Dress Day on Monday. So first, I want to, honor the families that this is really for their healing journey. I don't know a single Native who doesn't have a missing or murdered Indigenous family member or friend. I don't know one. I'm sure they're out there, but they're probably very disconnected to their culture, which is its own. Well, I talk about genocide here all the time. A huge thank you to Deb Green. She founded it here 5 years ago. She thought it was really important to have a Red Dress Day, And, there's been multiple organizers over the years, volunteers. The Reconciliation Action Group, really proud of all of the effort you guys put into fundraising and just awareness. And then, of course, your volunteer time online, trying to share that information, but also in the world of the prep that we had to do the day before, as well as on the actual day, handing out all of the sandwiches and such that we actually made. So that was a lot of work, and I'm really grateful that they did that along with all the other volunteers. I want to thank the sponsors, folks who did give us a little bit of money so that we could pay our elders and dancers and drummers. Um, I know we did try to get a bathroom, and it was all figured out, but then it didn't show up. So I hope that organization gets their money back, one. But two, the city of Calgary, it's so funny that pathway that goes by there. I used to ride my bike there all the time, and there was never a nice park at the bottom, and now there's a new washroom there. So it's absolutely wonderful. So at least we had access to a washroom. That was good. It was a bit of a hike, but um, we have a wonderful woman named Cheryl Wood, and it turns out that her and Deb are somewhat related. So she emceed and brought her positive energy, and she also brought her beautiful Indian motorcycle. And she rides all the time, and she has a ride coming up. There's a spirit ride coming up on June 21st, which is Indigenous Peoples Day. So in my show notes, I'll have the link to mmipspiritride.org, and it's all one all together. So I'll put those in the show notes. They're also we're going to be looking for volunteers for May 5th as well, because Deb wanted to do it for 4 years. This was her fifth year, and she'd really like to pass it off to somebody else, which I don't blame her. Um, so if you're interested, that would be great. The mayor came, and for some of the family members, that means a lot to them. So I'm glad she came. But I had a funny moment with her because, there's this young man, part of the Palestinian encampment that got violently removed. And, him and his mom, just lovely human beings. I've had them in my backyard for fires, even though they're non-Indigenous. Um, just lovely human beings. Anyway, he wanted to come say hi to one of our elders who she supports Palestine. But unfortunately, the mayor was in the way, and so he wouldn't shake her hand. Which I don't blame him at all. And he was so kind in the way he said, I was part of the encampment and, so I can't really shake your hand. So I was like trying to make it a little better and said, she was gifted a spirit name from Elder Clarence Wolflag. I was lucky enough to attend it. And she's the only person who has ever showed up to all five of these events. So just to try to put it out there. Now, I personally have a issue with, and for folks like this is over 300 episodes now, and at the end of the day, they voted for that violence. They voted against, or they voted for taking the bus door shelters off in the coldest cold snap we've ever had, resulting in death, freezing to death, as well as amputations. So I personally, I just, I want to see measurables. I want to see what has the city done for 94 calls to action? What has the city done for 231 calls to justice? Because, yeah, and like these are measurables. And I know what the answer is. Everyone knows what the answer is. And that's why I have a really hard time, even though she's a brown woman, respecting her work on this because I don't see it. I don't see it good enough. Not for me. Anyway, there was another event actually, and I was lucky to be a part of it. It was on the 7th, so not yesterday, but the day before. And so I wanted to thank Treaty Descendant Sarah Buffalo. I wanted to congratulate her and Kelly, and there were multiple Calgary Public Library staff that worked really hard on this event. And, I'm just grateful that you had me on that panel. But I want to thank my panelists because Rachel Snow and Ruth Scalplock, like they're talkers. They both could have had their own 2 hours, I swear. Myself as well, but I obviously wanted to defer to them as Rachel Snow is a part of the Stony, so she's a Treaty 7 signatory descendant, and Ruth Scalplock, obviously, our elder and a part of the Siksika Nation. She has decades of experience of advocating for MMIW. So, anyway, they were wonderful. It was wonderful to share the stage with them. And I wanted to give a shout out to Kelly at the Calgary Public Library because the library has this like annual issue of Mover and Shaker and community building awards that happen. So Kelly won it, and I just think it's wonderful because when I think about 10 years ago, how different the Calgary Public Library was compared to today, where we're having events like this. And like they even got me supper from Denny's. Like they were just lovely. And I don't know, I'm grateful that there's been a massive shift in attitude towards Indigenous people. And I got an honorarium too. So like that and beautiful gifts. I don't know. There's been a major change now, which is good because like I remember not like 10 years ago, an elder would drive 2 hours to be given like a pen and not gas money and all the rest of it. So it's good that there's that. And I know both Rachel and Ruth, both of them, an hour long drive out minimum as well. So, and I also want to thank the Snow family for their questions, but also I was lucky enough to have one of them say some kind things to me too. So, I'm honored to share the stage with folks like that. And, there was a person who came up to me and said, look, on Red Dress Day, I drove for blocks and I didn't see one single red dress. So I just wanted to put that out there for all the folks that are listening, all the non-Indigenous people. Um, really talk to your other friends and family about putting a red dress up every May the 5th and talk about why, because it would really help everybody. The Moose Hide campaign is going to be having their own day next week, and there will be a walk. I've been sharing it on my other social medias. SafeLink Alberta is hosting it. So I really wanted to put that out there too, so that if you have an opportunity to participate, that would be wonderful. But if you also see those little moose hides, that you have an opportunity to know this person's done a itty bitty amount of understanding and research about the issue. And have a look. If you don't know what I'm talking about, have a look at the Moose Hide campaign online and read up on, this father and daughter who decided to initiate this. And now, it's such a great organization. They give away moose hides for free and they are sponsored. So, they're a charitable organization for all you folks with lots of money that have, will only give to charitable organizations, which I am not. Yeah, it's really good. So, yeah, I hope that people reflect on what red dress means to them and what it means to the Indigenous community and participate in a positive, constructive way. All right, so it's May 9th, and there has been so much conversation as, all of these people are talking about Daniel Smith. All of these people are talking about separation. And the rest of the country is talking about Alberta. And I'll tell you, as an Indigenous person in Alberta, how beyond frustrated I am with this conversation. Seeing white content creators talking about this situation, it just pisses me off. Um, Seeing, all of these people posting videos of our treaty chiefs talking about this issue. It's so infuriating to me. I've been doing these land acknowledgement teachings for, I don't know, Sam's 14 or 17. So I guess like 17 damn years of this. We've been doing land acknowledgements in Calgary for maybe 10 years, maybe. And people still don't know what it is. At the Red Dress event, I just outright told people, if you have that you're an invited guest or you feel comfortable saying the words, you're an invited guest, Drop that from your goddamn language immediately. I said that you have to understand, unless you've gone through some ceremony with the Treaty 7 chiefs, with the Treaty 7 elders, with the Treaty 7 community, you're not fucking invited. So drop that from your vocabulary. Quit putting that into your stupid emails. I'm glad you're doing it, if you are. But holy hell, like, think about what you're saying is that there is some treaty person that said, "Oh my God, yes, we have a spiritual covenant and we are inviting you here to participate in that." Like, you didn't do that. So, what gives you the right to think you can say that? Annoying me as shit. Anyway, so I said that there, and then Rachel Snow kind of chimed in with her conversation. And I really thought she made this really important point for people to understand. And this was bothering me from the entire conversation that I had seen over the last week or so. You know, Danielle Smith, the UCP, and conservative Albertans have their panties in a knot because, you know, the election wasn't the way they wanted it. Well, first of all, suck it up, babies. And two, if you truly cared about democracy, you would accept those results. Now, I know damn well, and I've been talking about it since fucking Harper. Um, Geez, so like 17 years of this conversation of how him and his, dirty deeds conservatives are always buying bots, robocalls. Uh, Today, it's all bought and paid for media through these influencers and such in the States. It's all coming out of the States and Russia. This was public knowledge. Trudeau put that out when they had to do all these stupid inquiries that the dumb conservatives were the ones that needed this inquiry, and they don't accept the findings within it. And of course, all of that, like, truth is suppressed, and all of this bots, like, we have a bot going around right now of Mark Carney um, saying all sorts of like untrue stuff. And no matter how many times you tell a conservative that this isn't true, they don't listen. I have natives sending me messages in my DMs showing me these videos of Carney that have been established as fake. And you can't tell them that because they hate the government. Now, at least as natives, we have a reason to hate the government. But what's your excuse, non-natives? Holy hell. It is beyond frustrating to me that non-Indigenous perpetuate that, but that people don't question what they're paying attention to. Really and truly, though, to be for real about this, I've been talking about treaty rights, and I don't think I made the point that I wanted to. My apologies with my ADHD brain and autism. Rachel Snow made the point that treaty chiefs, through the Indian Act, aren't necessarily the people that should be talking about this. The Indian Act is colonial politics. And so this is me telling, like, the Indian Act is colonial politics. And traditional chiefs are not through the Indian Act. And hereditary, like the offspring of hereditary chiefs, someone like herself, she has the rights to be talking about treaty. Her dad wrote a book. I have promoted it on my book club. We did read it. Why people will not read these books that I recommend in my book club, I have no idea, because they just show their ignorance over and over again. So anyway, she made the point that, these Indian Act chiefs can talk all they want, and they're entitled to by Canadian standards, but we really should be listening to more of the hereditary chiefs and what they have to say, but also the descendants of the actual signatories of the treaties, which I would absolutely say in my teachings for folks who would be bothered to hear them. But the first, I don't know, 200 episodes, I talked about treaty in depth and got lots of terrible feedback from everybody. So, I'm just like, okay, we'll do this small little intro and go from there. I wanted to read to you and highlight. So, I've been lucky enough to have Bruce McIver as my guest before. So, if you look for Native Calgarian podcast and Bruce McIver, spelled McIvor, first of all, you should be absolutely following his work 100%. He puts out tons of information about law from First Peoples perspective. So, like, I follow him religiously. If you follow me on social media, I try to amplify whatever I see of him. Anyway, there is a situation that is happening right now that him and the Honorable Harry Lafont had spoke out against. So, the UBC professors, there's four of them that have filed at the Supreme Court of BC this concept. They're tenured university faculty members, and they want to forbid the UBC from declaring or acknowledging that it's located on unceded Indigenous land. They also want to prohibit from requiring and encouraging others to declare or acknowledge the land is unceded and oppose the university's stance on diversity, equity, and inclusion and the Palestine-Israel conflict. Um, the professors argue that by declaring or acknowledging UBC is on unceded Indigenous land, that the UBC is offside of the Provincial Universities Act requirement that the university be on sectarian and non-political in principle. Their argument is that land acknowledgements are political statements that silence them and other professors who believe Canada is fully sovereign over the lands of British Columbia. They argue that the UBC has created an environment where academics who disagree have difficulty securing a teaching position, a promotion, and tenure. According to UBC, so this is taken from First People's Law. I have the link in the show notes, and it says, like literally, these two have said, acknowledging that UCP or UBC is on unceded territories is not a political statement. It is a recognition of fact and law. This is not a question of differing opinions over which reasonable people can disagree. The Canadian Supreme Court in the 1973 Calder decision recognized Aboriginal title as part of Canadian law. Aboriginal title exists where Indigenous people have not ceded, yielded, or given up their legal interest to their land to Canada. Because of this legal and factual reality, Canada and British Columbia have expended millions of dollars negotiating modern-day treaties. UBC's Vancouver campus is situated on the unceded territory of the Musqueam Nation, and its Okanagan campus is situated on the unceded territory of the Syilx or Okanagan people. Canada does not have a treaty with Musqueam or with the Syilx um, how do I even say that? I'm looking at it. Okanagan nations and its members. Yeah. UCB or UBC's campuses are on unceded territory, full stop. This is not a matter of debate, alternative viewpoints, or alternative facts. It's a matter of law and history. Acknowledging this reality is not a political statement, denying its truth and seeking to silence its recognition most certainly is. Now you can read the entire article and learn more about him. But please be following him. Like, I look up to him. So these are people that I follow and I try to amplify their voices. And, and I would also say, especially in BC, um, you have UNDRIP, which is a part of their provincial legislation. So I just personally would say not only is this a waste of time and resources and money, but for the folks who are trying to make this argument about the University Act, it's clear to me that if they want to take it that personal, that the University Act must have to have some sort of caveat or amendment to it in order to recognize UNDRIP and recognize unceded territory. And I bring this up because, like, Alberta is just showing its ignorance. The UCP members, the Daniel Smith. Now, most of us agree and believe that they know that. and that they're trying to just be ridiculous because they can. And their dumbass followers just believe them because they're idiots. So for me, it's incredibly frustrating and trying. But the thing is, I earlier spoke about these bots. Um, they are purposefully going after Indigenous content creators and even non-Indigenous content creators talking about it and just perpetuating racism. My favorite one is, well, these chiefs are so corrupt. And I am seeing a lot of natives talking about that. The problem is that Indian Act chiefs, they live by a different set of rules. And I've talked about it many times here and how they have less power than school trustees, for God's sakes. But that would be the closest equivalent under colonial law, under colonial governance, under the directive of the Indian Act. And again, for folks who haven't read it, 21 things you may not know about the Indian Act, but there's so many other things that you can talk about with that too. So I don't know. And then the hardest part for me is trying to deal with these people who think they're progressive, but they're just racist piece of shits too. And they need to like do their anti-racism work in Indigenous education, and they refuse to do it. And even our own people, like, of course, there's so much lateral violence and internalized racism rather than just looking at the colonialism, looking at the Indian Act and seeing that the lateral violence that they're seeing and the corruption between any of the Indian Act chiefs would actually be a reflection of Canadian law, not us. And to not go after, the like this is the hypocrisy. Both Daniel Smith, the UCP, the federal conservatives, there's so much corruption there. You never see those folks go there. In fact, they actually went silent after Pierre whatever, whatever his fucking name is. He lost his stupid election. Um, but again, if you listen to my last episode, I was very clear that a lot of conservative women did indeed vote for conservatism. So it's a sad reality, but that is what we're dealing with. So it sucks. Hooray. Um, yeah, and like it's Friday morning, and I've already dealt with two racists today. Um, One of them sent me direct messages, so I did these TikToks to counter them. Then they blocked me. On Twitter, the Alberta resistance. I've actually tried to engage with them a numerous times to say, hey, did you know, there's this and this, and it's just the white fragility and the settler fragility is so painfully clear. In this latest episode, they had this, ugly, angry bear with blood being like, support our First Nations. And I'm like, ugh. Gave them the link that says why you don't use possessives. And this is the second time I've had to do that with this organization. And rather than take accountability, no, 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 no. All of the thousands of interactions, not one of those damn settlers who were like, oh my God, I so know the native struggle. Not one of them educating and correcting them. So I do it. I'm the bad guy. And they take down the post. Like, this is the type of fucking racism I see every single day in progressives. I'm so tired of it. But if you noticed, I named this episode Cheeks, and it's for a reason. Um, I'm going to say it at the end of the episode, why, if you don't know why. So there were some protests, obviously written. There were press conferences with a lot of Indian Act chiefs, and then there was legislature protest there. Apparently, there's going to be one Saturday here and in Edmonton. I don't really care. So that's tomorrow, so you will be hearing this late anyway. Um, and I just, I just don't even care. But my good friend, Dr. Zadie, who we did do about, interfaith cultural understanding conversations to end racism in Calgary prior to the pandemic, he wants to, do some solidarity action in the sense of like press releases and that. So, working with the Filipino community, the Muslim community, every type of ethnic background you can, and with the treaty chiefs. So, like, I really respect that type of initiative. For folks who don't know him, I have shared his books. He's published two books as well on the issue of Palestine and Israel. So, I have a lot of respect for him, and he's an actual medical doctor. Really nice fellow. So I hope to team up with him and maybe the Reconciliation Action Group to team up with him and put out a joint statement with many community organizations that are in the city because, as an urban native, obviously we have the right to stand in solidarity with treaty. I mean, I'm a treaty person. My band is technically Treaty 8 and 11. So if you go across the lake, then it's in Treaty 11. But on the south side is Treaty 8. So, and Yellowknife is completely covered in arsenic. Thanks, mining. So, yeah, tired of Albertans trying to pretend like they can separate. You know, um, I just can't even believe we have to have this conversation at all. I didn't realize how disconnected to Westminster politics and Canadian law regular Canadians are, that they didn't know how many, you know, people you need to, how many provinces and territories have to agree in order to open up the Canadian Constitution. And I mean, I've looked into this long before. I've talked about it numerous times about the Indian Act. The Indian Act is embedded in the Canadian Constitution. In order to change a Canadian Constitution, you have to go all through all these loopholes, which nobody wants to do. So that's why it never gets done. And that's why Alberta separation is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And anybody who purports it are an automatic block. You're a fucking idiot. You never have to read a single word you ever have to say again because it's ridiculous. Um, so yeah, I wanted to put that out there. And I also wanted to say about the TikTok, I had to start a new playlist called Direct Messages Playlist because like sometimes I get these direct messages that are so ridiculous. And so if I put the energy and effort, then I'm going to put it out there what I had to say. Um, and big news, we have an American Pope. Ooh-wee. For me, I have no time for Catholics because they put zero effort into reconciliation. So I have zero time for it. My mother, strong Catholic because of the stupid Sacred Heart Indian residential school. My granny was one as a result of the stupid Catholic shit. So St. Patrick Church and school was a big influence in my mom's life growing up in Yellowknife. And yeah, I pretty much hate the Catholic Church because of its lack of accountability and Stephen Harper just allowing them to not give the money that we were owed in court because that was his midnight deal before he lost his prime minister. And that's why every single one of his team, I will fight until the end of the earth. I never want to see them elected again. But my racist Albertans will constantly vote them in. It's disgusting. Um, I'm watching Andor 2. I highly recommend people watch it. It's the rise of fascism just before Rogue One. Really loved Rogue One. So if you liked Rogue One, you should probably be watching Andor 1 and 2. And for the lesbians, there is a lesbian relationship. And I'm sad to say, well, trigger or warning. Yes, one of them dies like immediately after. Sucks. I'm sorry. I was relaying to my child about Adam Beach being Slipknot, and I was so excited to see him on the big screen, and then they killed him in the first minute, and I was so pissed. I'm like, I paid for this. Ugh, gross. Anyway, really love Andor 2. I hope people watch it. I'm in the middle of Last of Us now. First season was amazing because I got to see so many Calgary points of interest. Or my daughter and we would go over. Oh, I know where that is. I know where that is. So that was fun. So yeah, fun things to watch. Monday is our book club, Who We Are by Murray Sinclair, the late Murray Sinclair. And I think Nagan Sinclair is going to join us. So if you are listening to this and you have the opportunity and you want to come join us, by all means, just go into my link tree or into my website and sign up. You don't have to read the book. At least listening matters more than not reading the book at all. I want to give a shout out to my November book, Arc of the Medicine Line by Tony Rees, because Trump and the Americans are idiots and don't know. Well, so are Canadians, clearly. They're even like giving time to this Alberta separation conversation is just pissing me off. And yet they're totally obsessed about it. And I'm like, get a hobby. Like read a book or something. Listen to a podcast, even if it's not mine. Holy. So, if you are interested in joining the Reconciliation Action Group, please reach out. But of course, we demand you do work. You can't just sit around and be like, oh my God, I so love natives. Our Indigenous peoples are so great. We will call you out on that shit and we will kick you out in a second because you have to do the work of reading the book, the 94 calls to actions, reading the books, reading the 231 calls to justice. Um, these are really important parts that, you know, people who claim to care about reconciliation need to learn the truth. So if you're so busy talking about Alberta separation, you're also showing me you don't understand the truth of this country and, indirectly contributing to anti-Indigenous racism and giving a platform for racism to continue their misinformation and try to bring in the ignorant to believe them. So please consider that. And then also, too, um, the Reconciliation Action Group has something called Skip the Bottle Depot. And so I did this where I just made an appointment and they came to my house and picked up my bottles and a portion of the money just went to the Reconciliation Action Group. And so I'm telling you because like if that's all you can do, that's all you can do. That would be great. All of that money goes to our elders or anybody that they can pay for some of the programming they do. If you see some of the stuff we share, they've teamed up with a lot of different organizations to talk about child welfare, to talk about homelessness, to talk about all of Palestine. We believe in decolonizing, obviously. And, so that's what we're doing. Anyway, Masicho to my ancestors, to my granny, to my mom, of what strength looks like through your example. I want to thank my dad for teaching me to be strong and blunt, my stepmom for showing me what a proud culture is through her Austrian family and roots and teaching me to be a proud Calgarian. It is through her. I'm a second generation proud Calgarian. Thank you to my husband. He produces, he edits this show. He's been my husband for 30 years, childhood friend, father of our child, support down my journey of the Red Road. He's witnessed decades of racism, sexism, and ableism. And honestly, I know I'm successful because I'm a straight cis lady who married young. We did our work together. I know that. And it's because it's bigger than just marriage, it's love too. Anyway, I hope our child, how blessed we are to learn from you. We are so honored you chose us and give me daily accountability to be a better and stronger person. I hope my daughter and my family will be proud in the future trying to discuss these present day issues. I honor the Blackfoot. The elders and members have been so kind to me on my Red Road journey. Elder Red Crane taught me how to pronounce my spirit name in Blackfoot, and Leonard Kenny taught me how to pronounce my spirit name in Satu Dene. My humblest apologies to the elders and language keepers as I try to learn proper pronunciation. My patron account is Native Calgarian, where you can pledge and support. Thank you, previous donors, for showing your support. If you value listening and watching and can afford to give, thank you. For those who cannot afford to give, I'd love to hear from you at nativeyyc@gmail.com, where you can send in your comments or questions. But careful, because I might use them for content. Don't worry. You don't really send me much anyway. I also have a YouTube channel where you can subscribe. You can go to nativecalgarian.com for the latest podcasts and pin posts on social media. Although, because of the election, I'm pretty far behind in promoting my other podcasts. So I hope to see some shares or some social media content from other folks about it. I know I share a lot of dark things. So thank you so much for listening. So I'm trying to end every podcast with a touch grass moment, so that we kind of reconnect to the world and not focus too much on the screens or the shitty media. And I'd love to hear your touch grass stories. But anyway, I promised you I would tell you why I named this podcast Cheeks. And so for folks who missed it, there was a protest in the legislature and somebody took a picture of one of the Indigenous men holding a sign, and it said, Cheeks, Alberta separation. That's the closest thing you will get to Alberta separation. And so every native knows what he meant, and we all laughed so hard. And I hope you all get the joke about your butt cheeks. It's a butt end joke. Anyway, I want to end by giving side eye to those Calgary rabbits. You're lucky I'm not tradish, or my beautiful cousin would respond, or you'd be in my dish. Thanks, folks, for listening again.